Good morning. Happy 5th of July. Welcome to Coffee and the Word this morning, Bremer Christian Church. Hope you had a good 4th. Pretty quiet around here with the burn ban and fireworks ban. A few rebels sending a shell off here and there, but not very many. And mostly pretty good law-abiding citizens, I think, last night. I went out to the farm last night. It's county-wide. And I went out to the farm last night and sat thinking that somebody would probably be shooting some around somewhere, since we're really not very far from other municipalities that might be shooting them. And I never saw a shell at all last night from out there. So anyway, but it was a good 4th. Hope you guys had a great time, visits with your family. And we have a great event coming up here tomorrow night, and we normally shoot fireworks, but we have our men's group has fish fry out at the farm, and it's welcome, open to the public, and we have a great time. Lots of fun outdoor stuff for the kids, including the 100-foot long slip and slides, the big tradition, and of course the guys fixing great fish. And then we would have had fireworks, but we're not going to. But we have a great worship as our praise team. We'll be bringing worship at dark, and it'll be a great event and one that we'll really enjoy, even if we don't have the fireworks. So, excuse me, we're looking forward to that. Got to get out to the farm today and do a little more work, put up some carport shelters for some shade, and get things ready. We'll have lots of shade, lots of ice down water, so don't be afraid to come out. Okay. Just spilled coffee on my Bible. That's not the way coffee and the Word is not supposed to mix. This morning we're on Psalm 15. Excuse me. We take a look at Psalms of David. And in this one, I really enjoyed this because of the first verse. Oh my goodness, where'd that yawn come from? Excuse me, you guys edit that out later. Okay, Psalm 15. O Lord, who may abide in your tent? Who may dwell on your holy hill? I love this verse because we're looking at about 2.5 weeks from now. 3 weeks, let's see, I think what is today? 2 weeks from today, we'll be leaving to go to NYR, and we spend a week camping in tents on the mountain for a week, worshiping the Lord in the high mountains. And I get this picture from this of that. O Lord, who may abide in your tent, who may dwell on your holy hill. And we camp at the top of the hill. I think there's 2 groups that camp just beyond us, basically up on the same level, but beyond us. But we're as far a walk as you can get from the bottom where the worship is held, and so we are on the holy hill. And just really look forward to it. There's just nothing like sleeping in the tents out there and getting a feel for what it's like. It gets you grounded and back to basics. Very basic. Sleeping in a tent and using porta potties. But we get a chance to take our young people and allow them to see what it's like to have to live in those kind of conditions. And there's people around the world that are forced to live in those kind of conditions or worse year-round, and not just for a week of fun. And it humbles you when you think about it. And so we look forward to that. So anyway, this verse reminds me of that. So let's get going here. I've really been fighting something in my throat the last few days, and I'm not sure what, but I got to take another drink. Okay. O Lord, who may abide in your tent? who may dwell on your holy hill? He who walks with integrity and works righteousness and speaks truth in his heart. He does not slander with his tongue, nor does evil to his neighbor, nor takes up a reproach against his friend, in whose eyes are I want to say reprobate. I cannot pronounce it this morning. In whose eyes a reprobate is despised, but who honors those who fear the Lord. He swears to his own hurt and does not change. He does not put out his money at interest, nor does he take a bribe against the innocent. He who does these things will never be shaken. Interesting language there that we had a discussion a little bit yesterday on Facebook. 9 years ago, yesterday, I picked up James from his last ever Bible camp, and then 9 years ago, coming up the 11th, we lost James. And as I was reflecting upon those things yesterday, as I often do at the 4th, had one of our dear friends post that their faith was really shaken when they heard the news of James's death. And thinking about that, we were shaken. There were a lot of us shaken. I've never been so shaken ever in my faith. But as I shared with her, we were shaken, but we were not moved away from our faith in God. We knew that God still has a plan. We have a family in the community now, the Anderson family, who one of their cousins has just suffered a terrible loss of 2 young children yesterday at the Lake of the Ozarks. That family lived near Ashland, if I've understood right from the news reports, but they're from the Anderson family here in town, and with lots of kinfolks and ties here. And that event will shake them. The events like that shake you. But if your faith and your hope is in the Lord, He will see you through that. And He will be there with you the whole way, and be there with you when you come out. And do you ever really come? You don't ever really come out, because life's never the same. But you return to a place where life has hope, and life definitely has hope when we're in Jesus. We have the promise of that, no matter what comes in this world that might shake us a little bit. And so I have to differ with David a little bit. I think we might be shaken, but not to the point of being broke, not to the point of being moved off of that foundation of Jesus Christ. He talks about this one who is able to live in the tent, in the holy dwelling, and he says, who is that? And he says, it's the one who can walk in integrity and work righteousness, speak truth in his heart. So important that we realize that God wants us to treat each other fairly, treat each other with integrity, and to reflect His righteousness to others. I like this part, speaks truth in his heart, and it goes on and says, does not slander with his tongue. The two things are very important. Number one, when we're saying something about God and about our faith, it's something that's real from our heart. It's not just words coming out of our mouth, but it's something that's real, that we're really convicted about and feel very strongly about. So that part, he says, speaks truth in his heart, and then the truth that comes from his mouth is that which is in his heart. But beyond that, he says, he's one who doesn't use his tongue for slander and harm. And so often this can be the case, that we as humans carelessly say things about people or to people that can be harmful. Something for us to learn to control. James spends quite a bit of time in his letter talking about the need for man to control his tongue, which actually controls us and controls so much of the way we interact with people. So he says the one who gets there is able to not slander with his tongue. Says he doesn't do evil to his neighbor. In fact, we're trying to do good for our neighbor. He doesn't take up a reproach against his friend. And then there's this point, this word, this reprobate, which I couldn't pronounce this morning. I need to look this up in a different version. They probably don't have a reprobate in there. I don't know why I have so much trouble with that word. I look at it and it's like reprobate and reprobate. Anyway, but when he looks upon things that we consider a reprobate, his eyes despise it. It's not something that pleases him, not something that teases him. It's not something that attracts him. It's something that despises him. But it says he honors those who fear the Lord. He recognizes and sees those who love and fear the Lord, who are genuinely in the Lord. Excuse me. As a Christian, I really think you will never have as dear friends as those who you learn are really like this man that David's describing, those who really honor the Lord, and you recognize them as such, as fearing the Lord, honoring the Lord, and the respect is there, and you there's just something about that kinship that's so special. It goes on and says he swears to his own hurt and does not change. And to understand this means that if I give my word to God, even when it comes to a point in my life where that may change, where that may cause me hurt, I don't change that promise I made God. This is reflective here again. This is one that I too painfully understand. As I recognized years ago that my children were not mine; they were gifts of God that He brought into Lisa and my home and into our lives, and it brightened our lives in great ways. But I realized years ago that they are not mine possessions, and prayed very sincerely to God for Him to use my children in whatever ways He could in His kingdom, for the good of His kingdom. Of course, it was hard to understand then His use for James at the time, because he was a young man with so much potential, this word that we use. But God used his death for the good of so many. Not that I don't blame God and say that it was His plan for James to die, but that it was His plan to use that situation to further the kingdom. And thus then there's a point when I had to decide, like David describes here, whether I continue with the promises I had made to God because I felt like he had misused James, and I had to realize that my God is so faithful that beyond the circumstances of James's death, he has honored our family and blessed our family. And we know that James is in a place that's far better than where we're at right now. Do we miss him? Of course, we miss him tremendously, and we miss what may have been. But we deal with what is. And so there's this point that, yeah, it hurts, but we can't change our promise to God. We have to hang on to that and cling to that, because he's so faithful and true that we know that everything he's promised us is going to come true. Finally, David says here, he does not put out his money at interest. He does not take a bribe against the innocent. Again, it's talking about fairly treating others. Does this mean bankers are evil? I don't think so. Some of them can be, but it's not an intrinsic thing that you have to be evil to be a banker. Because I know we've named some very godly men who are bankers and good bankers. And I've had some of those very godly men tell me, you don't need to borrow that money because you really don't need that thing that you're trying to buy. Now, if they were simply in it to get the interest, they wouldn't have said that. And of course, I'm talking about Emerson Bliss, and a great man of God that was such an example for us here. We love him so much. So glad when he gets to come back and visit us. But I want you to understand here that it says don't put your money out on interest, but it doesn't mean don't loan your money. I think you should be willing to loan folks money who need it. And quite honestly, I think when you do that, you ought to consider it a gift. Because if you expect to be repaid, there will come a point where you will regret that act, and it may cause hard feelings. And so give them the money, consider it a gift, and move on. You didn't need it anyway. But anyway, then we get to that last verse, which we've already talked about. He who does these things will never be shaken. And again, I think we're shaken. But if we have that strong foundation, we can be shaken. Skyscrapers are designed to withstand shaking and movement, that they move all the time in the wind. But they're not torn from their foundation by design. By design, as Christians, when we're built upon Christ, we can be shaken but not moved. I hope you all remember that if you take nothing else from this today. Be prepared to be shaken, but be prepared to keep your word to God. See you guys tomorrow, Psalm 16. Gonna be a busy day tomorrow as we're getting ready for stuff, but we'll be in here in the morning getting this going on our coffee and the word. We will do Psalm 16 tomorrow. Preserve me, O God, for I take refuge in you. Take those words with you today. Get into your Bible, drink lots of caffeine, and actually drink lots of water today, because it's going to be terribly hot again. We'll see you guys later. Have a great day.